live like that.
And I mean, I went to the altar a few times, Chris. I was one of those people. Like, I went when I was 8, then I went again, because I never really knew for sure that I was saved. I don't know if other people.
I've been a few times too.
So it's like, because it doesn't feel like anything happens sometimes. But over a period of time, I got to the point where I got tired of getting like that shallow, I think I'm saved, and then some things happen in life, and then all of a sudden I don't feel saved anymore. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that, but I think it kind of goes into one of the other questions we had.
Okay, yeah. Next question was, once you establish a relationship with God, how do you continue to build on it in order to strengthen your relationship with Him?
Okay. So, it sounds real easy when you say, just ask Jesus Christ to come into your heart. It sounds kind of religious, actually, and it sounds weird. But to make it real simple, Jesus tells a parable in Matthew chapter 13 where he's talking about the sower having seeds, and the seeds are scattered. And the seeds are scattered different places. And he says the sower is God. And then the seed are the children of God, like us. So once we accept Jesus, we become those seeds. He puts us out in the world. Our point in the world is not to just be in the world and exist, it's actually to bear fruit. And bear fruit and be like Him. And here's the thing about those seeds. I have some notes. Some of the seeds fell on shallow ground. You ever play rock, paper, scissors? I hate that game. I hate that game.
Yeah.
I never understood why paper wins over rock. Now that's what I don't get. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, I don't get that. They say because
paper covers, it covers over the rock.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Okay, so rock, paper, scissors. So think about rock, paper, scissors, and this is what I was just reading Matthew 13, and it made me think about that because it's rocks, thorns, and shallow ground. And those were the three different types of ground that the seeds got scattered on. Okay, so when we receive the word of God, like we get saved, but we're on shallow ground. That's kind of like when you really don't get it. And it's like you don't have a real good understanding of it. You're really not deep. You barely have it, and so it's easy for Satan to send different things your way to like snatch it away from you. And I think that's why a lot of times we get saved or we receive Jesus Christ, but we don't start bearing any fruit in our life. It doesn't feel like we're saved because Satan, we're too shallow, and he sends stuff our way, and it just takes us completely backwards, And then, so that's kind of like, it's hard to start a relationship and grow when you keep going backwards.
Right.
And that's why some of us keep going to the altar over and over again, just getting saved, because we're constantly going backwards. And then to really establish, a seed, I like to plant. I know you know, well, you might not know that. Do you know I like to grow plants? Okay. Because I have really not been doing I haven't been doing too good with that lately. But if you plant the seed deep enough in the soil and it has the chance to grow roots, then it can deal with a lot of stuff a lot better. And it still stays stable. And that's how our relationship has to be. We got to go a little deeper. And I think there are a lot of ways to go deeper in a relationship. But it's no different than a relationship with like a girlfriend and a boyfriend or friends. You can't grow that relationship if you really don't spend any time together.
Right.
And they're like, well, how you spend time with God and He ain't here?
Right.
I know that's a question somebody's thinking. And I don't think church, necessarily being in church, is spending time with God. But there are times when we're singing worship songs and the music is playing and you really, it's just between you and God. And it's just that. That's good. That's spending time with God. But spending time with God is as simple as when you get up in the morning, just knowing that He's with you all day long and just talking to Him, just like I'm talking to you.
Right.
It's really not that deep. I thought that I got mad at God. I was 16, and I threw a complete fit. Because he told me, I could hear a small voice telling me to break up with this guy. And it was a guy that I didn't need to be. I'm always talking about my daughters and how I'm always on Christian and Kaylin about who they choose. Because I've been there, and I was the one.
I'll be on them too, because I know how. Guys are. Put it like that.
Exactly.
Guys are, yeah.
And I don't know why sometimes good girls, those are exactly the ones, the type of guys they are attracted to, the ones they don't need.
Right.
So that's kind of the situation. Is I was with somebody I didn't need to be, but I really had never heard God talk to me that I could remember.
Yeah.
But I started hearing this, like a small voice urging me to stop, to break up with him, and I was kind of like trying to ignore it, but it kept coming back. And I was kind of like not wanting to do it. Well, I really didn't want to do it.
Right.
I had my mind made up.
Right.
That was my boo. So when I went, I finally gave in, and I was like, I'm going to do it. So I went over his house, knocked on the door, gave him, I don't know what I gave him back, something I gave him back, and I said, okay. So I was like, how are you going to just come into my life and start telling me what to do?
Right.
Where you been? And see, I didn't have my dad, so I was really treating him like I would treat. Because I was mad, not having your dad around. A lot of people have, but you had your dad and mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have my dad, and it's a different experience growing up. Because you don't know what that's like, having a father, somebody telling you what to do like that. So I was mad. And I got on my knees that night to pray. And I was 16, and I was like, you talk to all these preachers, and they ain't no good, and you won't even talk to me. Somebody's always talking about how I heard God say, and you don't say anything to me. So I had done all that, throwing my fit, and I got on my knees that night, Chris. And when I got on my knees, I went into a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't just seeing it, like I was literally like, I had my eyes closed, but I literally could see all this, just like it was 100% real. Like it's like having a dream that you think is real, but you're not asleep. I had just got on my knees to get ready to go to bed, and I started to pray, and I knew he didn't hear me. As soon as I started praying, and I got scared because it was the first time, and it got really dark, and it was so dark in this. It was just so evil and thick. It was like, that's why I don't watch scary movies now, because it was like a horror movie. And on the other side, like I could see like this ugly thing in the corner. I know that sounds awful, but it was covered, like you couldn't see its face, but it was something evil. And I was like terrified, kind of, and scared. And I was thinking, I got somebody in my corner, and I went to try to, at that moment I was thinking, God help me, and I turned around and he wasn't there. And I was the first time I had ever been without him. And that was the first experience that I had where I really didn't have it. And I got in it, and I got into bed, and I cried myself to sleep. And then some other stuff happened. But that experience first right there taught me that while I was trying to make it so deep, knowing God and feeling his presence, it really wasn't that deep. He was there our whole time. I didn't know what it was like to not have him. It's like your skin. You got your skin, but you never like think about that your skin is there or feel it. I mean, it's just there. I mean, it's just there. And I was like, I had him the whole time, and I didn't know it. I was taking it for granted. I was used to it, and so now that I don't have him, I know what that's like. So, long and short, he woke me up that night. There was a light at the end of my bed. He said, if you ask him to forgive you, he will. And it was like a trumpet, the sound of it. And I had played the trumpet for 9 years. So that's why I described that voice, because that's what it sounded like. And the light was really bright, but it didn't hurt my eyes. He called my name, and I sat up in my bed. And one of the things he said was, if you ask him, he'll forgive you. I just sat like this, and I started praying, and I was asleep. I didn't even know I had fallen asleep. I woke up the next morning, like jumped up out of the bed. Like it went from being here to jumping up out of the bed. And I went, and I was going to try to tell my mom, she was like, what? I was like, yeah, this is it. She's like, Darniche, go on in there. Go back to bed. So For all those years, since 8 years old, I had said I was saved, but I never really experienced knowing God or feeling like I knew Him. But that night, I realized He was with me all the time. So I'm saying that to say sometimes we're looking for a relationship with Him, and He's really right there. And it's hard to hear Him because we have all these other things going on, and we don't actually get still enough and quiet enough to spend time. I think that's probably much the only thing I can say about that.
I think you said everything on that one.
Okay.